This conference will now be recorded.
So in our yesterday's class, we were creating one data table. No? So data table we have created for the states. So the important points what we have to remember is whenever one data table is created, what are all the rules that are created automatically? So this will be the question. So that it will be creating 6 rules. Whenever we are creating data type, it will be creating 6 rules. The first rule is it will be creating one class, okay, and it will be creating one table for that, and it will be creating one database mapping rule. That is the third one, and it will be creating few properties here. So if I just expand this, I can able to see the properties. So it will be creating few properties here, and it will be creating data pages. So this is the fifth one, and it will be creating report definition. So whenever we are creating this particular data type, it will be creating 6 different rules, and this is very important. In interviews, they will be asking you. Okay. So instead of we directly hitting the data from external database, what we are trying to do is we are trying to create one internal database, and for that we have created one data type. Data type meaning one class will be created with some storage. So any of the data class which is having storage, it should be having one dedicated table. So that is also important thing what we have discussed. So this is the data class which is having some storage. Then if we just click on test connection, we can able to see one dedicated table created for that. So this is the class and this is the dedicated table for that. And if we just check for the other data classes, so this is the first data class we have created, and this is just meant for reusability. That is what we have discussed. We have just created the properties and we are reusing these properties by creating some pages. Now if I just check for the definition of this data class and click on test connection, we will not be finding any dedicated table connected to this. So any of the data class which is having some storage, it should be having one dedicated table, and all the data classes without storage, it should be linked to peer underscore other. Okay, you got this point now. This is what I want to stress it now. So these two are the important points in the interview perspective. And now we'll be creating one new data type for the hospital storage. So you clear with this process yesterday? You practice now. So now if I want to create any of the new data type, what I have to do, I have to go to the data types and select this arrow and click on add data type. Now I want to create one internal data storage for the hospital details. That is what I'm trying to do. So I'm just giving the name here, and I want to access this data across organization level. That is organization data class, and want to use it in application context, and click on submit. So now we have to create the properties. So yesterday's our requirement is, I mean, the whatever the thing we discussed is, we should be having 3 different drop downs. In the first drop down, we will be having region value selected, and based on the region value, based on the value what we are selecting the first drop down, second drop down values are to be filtered out. Okay, so for that, when we are creating the data table for the second drop down, we have given the first, I mean, we have given the parameter, we have given the region value as one of the property field. And now before creating this hospital data table, we have to identify the scope. Okay, whatever the value we are selecting in the state drop down, that is the second drop down, that value has to be passed as an input or parameter to this third drop down. So I have to include one property for the state value. Okay, and I have to include one property for hospital value, hospital name, and I can include one property for hospital code. That is not mandatory. If I want to link this particular hospital drop down to the next drop down, if I want to have fourth cascading value, then I should be having one unique code into this hospital table. No, so there should be one unique code here. So till now we have discussed about state code and hospital name. So out of these two properties, there will be nothing like primary to this particular table. So I'm trying to create third property like hospital code. I want to make that as a primary. Okay, getting my point? If I want to use this particular hospital values in the next cascading drop down, then I can able to use this value. So identify this, you understood the scope now, how to identify. Now I am giving values as state code. If you want to add it later also, you can able to do that. Suppose if you miss any property creating today, we can able to do it later also. But you cannot able to change the primary key. So got it now? So this is just like in creating properties. So when a class is created, one table has to be created and there should be some column headings for that table. No? What are all the properties we are creating? These will be considered as an headings to that corresponding table which is created now. So first thing we have created the properties, and next thing what we have to do is we have to create some storage. For that what we have to do is we have to go to record section. Okay, and click on configure source. I want to make this hospital code as the primary value, primary key, and just click on submit. So these three are the properties what we are creating, and this will be the these all will be the headings of the particular table that will be created for this. So these are all the OOTP properties that is meant for processing, and these three are the properties, user defined properties, and it will be holding the values what we are creating now. And as I told you, when particular record has been source has been configured, table will be created, and it will be creating 6 other rules. If we just click on this, we can able to see also. So for this particular class, one dedicated table is created and one database mapping rule has been created. Every class has to be linked to one table. No? So for that, one mapping rule has to be created. We call this as a database mapping rule. So one database mapping rule has to be created, one report definition has to be created, and 3 data pages will be created. Okay, we'll discuss about all this. You remember, you have to remember the rules created automatically. So just click on close. So if you want to insert the data manually, you can able to do that. Let me import it here. I have sent you the Excel sheet now, you can able to use the same. So before uploading, you have to make sure that property names as well as the column heading should be same. So we can able to see only 2 columns are matching. There is some discrepancy between this property name as well as the Excel sheet that we have to identify. So state code value is matching, hospital code is matching, but hospital name is not matching. Okay, so for that we have to go to Excel sheet. So let me open the Excel sheet now. So just click on next and click on start validation. So that is 100% successful. Click on continue. This is also fine and click finish. So these are all the list what we have in the Excel sheet. So just click on save. So data has been inserted successfully. So you understood now how to create one data table. Now as soon as we create the data table, one class will be created. We can able to just check for the class here. So this is the class that has been created automatically. So as I was discussing, when data table is when we are creating one data type, class will be created. One table that has to be created for this. You can able to check for this in test connection as well as the sysadmin database table. So there should be one dedicated table for this. Okay. So as per this naming structure, one table will be created. And in order to link one class and the table, there should be one mapping rule. So even that will be created. Else data table will not be connected to this. and properties will be created, and 3 data pages will be created, and 1 report definition will be created. So understood now? And suppose if we have any data class that is without storage, so these are all the data classes with storage. So that's why it will be having dedicated table. And this is the data class what we have created, and it is not having any data storage. It should be linked to peer underscore other. And now if we want to have some storage for this table also, we can able to do it. So right click on view in data designer, and you go to records tab manually and click on configure source. What are all the properties we have already defined? Those will be considered as an headings here. We can able to insert the data manually, or we can able to import the same. So if you follow this process, the same thing, class will be created, sorry, class is already there, data pages will be created, and report definition also will be created. So whenever we're just configuring the source, table will be created, mapping rule will be created, report definitions will be created, and data pages will be created. So the difference between creating the class first and giving the records tab, I mean creating the class and giving the configure source, and directly creating the data types is, we need not create the class manually. That's the only difference. You understood now? So the first thing is, we have created one class manually, and if we want to configure any source for that, we'll go to records tab, and if we just click on configure source, table will be created, and all other corresponding rules what we're discussing, those will be created. And if you don't want to create the class also, and if you want to have all these rules created automatically, we go for this data types. Understood no? Both of, I mean, clear no? Clear no, both of you?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So now our requirement here is, we should be creating one new section, and in that section I should be putting one drop down. In the first drop down, I have to select the region might be either north, east, west, south. So these are just 4 values. Now we can able to go for local list, and these 4 values will not be changed. This is the static data. And when are we going for data types is, if we have large data, and if the data seems to be dynamic, okay, then we go for data classes. I'm sorry, if the data seems to be constant, and if we have large data, we'll be going for data pages, data types. So the first thing is, we'll be creating one section and three different drop downs. In the first drop down, we'll be having region value, and in the second drop down, we'll be having states list, state value, and in the third drop down, we'll be having hospitals. Okay, so that is our approach. Now let me create one new section here. Hospital select section. Okay. So here I want to put 3 drop downs. So the first drop down, I can able to directly create the single value property. And parallel, I'm giving the local list values also. Okay, I'm saving this. And likewise, I'm creating another drop down for state as well as the hospital. Again, something like state selection. So interviews, they'll be asking you many questions on this cascading drop downs. I'm not giving any table type here. I'm not giving local list value. You observe that. Why? Because we want to have this value populated using data pages or from the data tables. I'll explain. So I want to save as this. I'm just saving this. So we have created 3 properties and I want to include it here. Okay, so if we just test for this, if we just test this rule, we can able to have these values populated, and no values will be coming for state as well as this hospital selection. Now if we just double click on this, as I was telling, we'll be having 4 different sources in order to have this drop down values populated. So by default we will be having as defined by property. So as defined by property, there will be something called list source, and then the list source, what is the source we are mentioning here? As defined by property. So in property level, what are we defining here? For the region property, we are defining table values. So as defined by property, meaning what are the values we are defining it here, those will be automatically coming as the source. Okay, and here in this case I don't want to have that as defined by property selected. I want to have some other values. So for that we have created one data type there, or data table. So I want to pull that data from the data table into my drop down. So let me check for the source here. So I'm having 3 other sources. So the data page, report definition, or the clipboard. So these 3 are the sources in order to get the data from data tables that we can able to understand. Okay, so we can able to retrieve the data by selecting any of these options. So the same data table will be there as it is, and if I want to pull the data using data pages, I have to select this, and if I want to pull the data using clipboard, I have to select this, and if I want to use for report definition, I can able to do this. So ultimately these 3 are the rules which are meant for pulling the data from data page, data type, data tables. Understood? No? Data type and data table both are same. In previous version of PEGA, we used to call this as a data table, and from the version number 8, they are calling this as a data type. That's it. Data page is different. So in order to get the data from data tables, we'll be having 3 different sources. Okay, so we already came across the word called data page. So we have already seen, whenever one data type will be created, data page rules are created automatically. So there we came across this word, and we already know about this clipboard, and we don't know about this report definition. Okay, now we'll discuss about the sources. So first thing we'll discuss about clipboard page. So if I'm selecting anything like clipboard page here, we have to define the clipboard page. So before that, we have to get the data onto the clipboard. Okay, let me select one page. I'm selecting one dummy page here. So I'm trying to run one new work object. That's it, nothing more than that. If I just click on clipboard, I want to just open any of the page. That's it. So this is one of the page that will be created. No? If I want to use this page, this is already one of the page created in the clipboard. So now our intention is we can able to give any of the clipboard page which is already created as a source here. Okay, so if I select any of the clipboard page, not only this one, if you give any real page, if we are trying to give clipboard page as the source, then automatically we'll be getting one more section expanded. Since we are giving the dummy pages here, it is not showing the value. So upon we selecting one corrected clipboard page, it will be asking us how are we getting this data onto the clipboard. So that will be the question PRPC will be asking us. Okay, so after at the end of our discussion, you'll be understanding why are we going for this clipboard. I mean, what is the thing I'm trying to discuss. So in order to access the data from the clipboard page, we have to define the clipboard page here, and as soon as we define the clipboard page here, it will be asking us to mark two checkboxes, that is like running an activity or running a data transform. Okay, so the meaning why the purpose why PRPC is showing that two options is we have to specify PRPC how are we getting that clipboard page by, I mean, how are we getting that page onto the clipboard. Okay, getting my point? So by default, when are we selecting one correct page name here, we will be getting two options like by running a data transform or by running an activity. So for that, we have to discuss about activities. So you understood now why are we going for activities now? So if you are selecting any clipboard page here, PRPC will be giving two options at the bottom. Now it is not coming. If you are selecting the real page, we will be getting two options at the bottom. Two checkboxes will be getting. The two checkboxes is run a data transform or activity. So if you are marking, if you are checking activity, so PRPC will be understanding whatever the clipboard page we are mentioning, that page is coming as part of by running one activity. So that is how PRPC will be understanding. So for that, I have to explain you what is an activity. So let us discuss about activities now. So you understood now? Why are we going for activities now? So activities are just like, let me show you. So in order to perform any of the business transactions, we will be going for activities. So if you want to create any of the new pages onto the clipboard, or if you want to interact with the databases, or if you want to go for integrations, or if you want to interact with data tables, anything, whatever the thing we want to do, any kind of business logic, we can able to do everything with the activities. So this is just meant for implementing some business or the business scenarios. So activity can be created under technical category. Okay, so this is just for implementing business logics. That's it. I'm giving something like test one. So within the activities, we'll be having everything in terms of steps. So we can able to define multiple steps here. So as I was discussing, activity will be having automated Java methods, no? So whatever the methods we have, everything will be having Java automated. If we just click on down arrow here, we can able to see all the available methods, and in each and every method we will be having Java automated. Okay, so using methods only we can able to implement our business logic. So we can able to implement these methods in step by step. If we want to add one more step, we can able to do this. Likewise, we can able to add n number of steps here. We can able to add multiple steps here, but PRPC will be recommending us to use only 28 steps. Okay, if we want to use more, if you are crossing these 28 steps, then it will be asking us to create one new activity, and it will be asking us to call that activity into this activity. Okay, this is just for the performance sake. If you are crossing 28 steps, more than 28 steps, performance will be degraded. There will be much load on PRPC. Then it will be asking us to, I mean, it recommends us to create one new activity, and we have to call that activity into this activity. Then we can, it is just like in cascading the number of steps, no? So each and every method has, I mean, each and everything has to be given with steps here. So the first thing we'll be having labels. So we can able to give any label, or we need not give. This is just an optional. So the purpose of giving labels is when we are using jump or when conditions, we will be using this. So right now, there will not be much use with this label fields, and that's just an optional. If you want to give, you can able to give this. And there will be something called loop. Okay, so if you want to perform this step number one for multiple times, okay, then we need not do this repeatedly. Instead, we can go for looping. So if I just select this loop option, this particular step, that is step number one, will be keep on looping. Suppose if I want to send one mail to the customer, okay, then I will be giving like send email notification. As I was discussing, send email notification is one OOTB activity, and if we use that activity, we can able to send one mail to the customer, and that is one of the activity, no? And whatever the rule we have created, this is also one of the activity. So as I was discussing, we can able to call one activity into another activity. So if I just call this send email notification into this activity, I can able to send one mail to the corresponding customer if I provide mail ID for that. And if I want to repeat this process for multiple resources, so if I want to send one customized mail, one common mail across all my employees in my organization, what I will be doing, instead of I repeating this step for multiple times, or instead of I running this activity for multiple times in order to send one mail to a single customer, we can able to go for looping. So if I just loop these steps, we will be defining the number of times we want to loop. So based on that, it will be sending the mails, or it will be doing its action as per the method what we are defining it here. Okay, so you understood the looping concept. No, looping meaning nothing, we can able to make this particular step repeated for n number of times. As I told you, know, if I want to call one activity into another activity, there will be some OOTB methods here. Just give the call method, use the call method. If we just use the call method, we can able to call another activity like send email notification or anything. So I'll explain this later. So you understood now the looping. And if you want to make this step number 1 to be executed on the condition basis, if you want to send an email to the customer if he is eligible only, okay, if you want to send, if you're having a database of all the customers, like all the customers like credit cards, and as well as the customers email, like who have account holders for us. Likewise, if you have some set of email IDs, and if you want to send only the emails to the credit card members, then we should be putting some when conditions. In this when condition, we can able to restrict, and we can able to apply some conditions. And this when condition will be, when this when condition is true only, this step number 1, that is method what we are defining, this step number 1 will be executed, else this step will be skipped off. It will be jumping to the step number 2. And even in the step number 2 also same process, it will be just checking whether we are having any looping given for that or not. And if we, it will be just checking whether we are giving any when conditions or not. If no when conditions are given, it will be executing this method, and as the results of this method will be storing into one page here. And this is just for a description, meaning just the name of the step, we can able to give it hard coded value whatever we want. Okay, so it will be executing in this order. So first it will be checking for the loop, then after it will be checking for the when conditions, and if when conditions is true, then it will be checking for the method, whatever the method name we are giving, it will be executing as per that, and the results what we are getting as per this method. Suppose if I want to get some data from the database, I will be using one OOTB method here. As I told you, know, we can able to interact with the database also using these activities. There will be some OBJ methods and RDB methods. If you want to interact with the database, if you want to store some data, or if you want to update, or if you want to delete some data in the external database or internal database, or if you want to retrieve any of the data, then we will be having the corresponding methods. And once we get the results, if I want to get the list of customers applied today, and if I'll be using one corresponding OBJ method for that, the results what we are getting, we can able to store it in one page. Ultimately the results are to be stored into clipboard only, no? So once we get the data onto the clipboard only, we can able to use it for the processing. So that will be defining it in the step page here. So what are the page name we are creating? That page has to be created automatically into the clipboard. So in our previous execution, we have seen, no, whenever we are running this work object, we will be having one page created automatically. Why? Because this property has been referenced with one page name dot property. So that page has to be created. And even in this case also, if I'm trying to interact with the database, and if I want to see the database details onto the clipboard, we'll be defining one step page here, and that page will be having all the details what we are pulling it now. And this is just a description of the step. So if we just define proper description, it will be useful for the next developers, and it will be useful for anyone. If you don't define this also, no issues. This is just an optional. And at last there will be something called jump. Jump meaning after the step number 1 is completed, if you want to directly jump to step number 5, okay, then we can able to define it here. Okay, so if we just define it here, we can able to apply some when conditions. So jump and when conditions purpose is almost the same. We can able to either skip the condition or skip the step, or we can able to jump to the next step. So these two are for applying conditions. So if these are enabled, we'll be having this circle, I mean this border enabled here. We can able to see this, no? So here jump statement is enabled. Actually that is not enabled. If you just clicked out, it will be gone. So you understood now? So once the step number 1 is completely done, it will be coming to step number 2. Likewise step number 3, 4, 5, 6. So whatever the thing we are defining in these steps, that will be executed in an order. Now we'll discuss about the methods. You clear now so far? Any questions or confusion? Uma and Tulani?
No, we are okay.
Yeah. So we can able to define. Anyone asking any question? Okay, we can able to define the method names here. As I was saying, there will be many OOTB methods, and if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So first to 5 you observe that this will be considered as in one set, and from the sixth one you can able to see all the methods are in ascending order. You can able to see, no, in an ascending order like A to Z, and first to 5 are not in ascending order. Okay, why? Because the first 5 are not the true methods. We will be calling this as an instructions. So call, branch, collect, Java, queue. So these are all the instructions, and rest all we call this as in methods. So activity clear status or activity end. So these are all the methods. We'll discuss about these instructions, and I'll tell you one method name. You can able to easily identify. You can easily tell me the purpose of that. So there is one method called page new. So if I use this method, can you tell me the importance of this? PRPC will be creating one new page onto the clipboard. That's it. So page new is one method which is to create one new page onto the clipboard. So likewise, there will be page remove also. If you want to remove the data, if you want to remove the page from the clipboard, there will be one method called page remove. Okay, if you want to rename the page, we can able to do this. So these are all the OOTP methods. So page copy is one method. If you want to copy the data from one page to another page, we'll be using this. And if you want to interact with the databases, as I was discussing, this is very important introduction. So there will be OBJ methods. So OBJ browse is for all the OBJ methods are for interacting with the database only. So this is to get multiple instances. This is to delete one of the records. We'll discuss all this. And there will be something like property set also. So you can able to tell me the importance of this. So this is one of the method using which I can able to set the value of any property. Okay. Similarly, there will be like property remove. Property remove will be there. And now let me show you. So I'm not entering any first name value here. Okay. Now let me set the first name value to something using activities. So for that, what we'll be doing, we'll be having property set. So property set is a method using which we can able to set the value into the clipboard. Okay. Let me create the page first. So whatever the values we are setting onto the clipboard, that has to be visible on one page. No. So for that, let me create one page. So the method responsible for that is page new. So page new is the method which will be creating one new page on the clipboard. Okay. We have to give the page name here. What are the page name we are giving that will be created on the clipboard? I'm giving something like page 1. Okay. And now before defining this page 1 or any of the step page, PRPC has to identify, we have to explain PRPC that the data in this page will be holding from which class. That is the thing we have to explain PRPC. So our requirement here is I want to set the first name property to one value. Okay, so the first name value will be under this data class. Agreed? So for that, I have to create one page which is referring to this class. So if you open clipboard, every page has to be referenced with one class. Without the page, there will not be any class. Sorry, without the class, there will not be any page. So if we just check here, PV work page will be referenced to one class, and this is one page which will be referenced to another class. And yesterday we were discussing about PY attachments page also. Even for that also there should be one class related. So for every page in the clipboard or in the PRPC, there should be one class linked to that. Okay. And now we are trying to create one page here. So the page will be storing which data. There should be one class reference to this page. So for that we have to define it in the pages and classes. So this is important. You have to remember this. So every page should be referenced with one class, no? So that's what I'm defining it here. Okay. So this page one will be holding the data of this class. Why? Because in this class only we have all the first name properties, all the properties. And I want to set the first name property, which is in this class. So for that I'm creating one page related to this class, and I'm creating it here. So step number one will be completed. Step number one, page new, this page will be created. And after this, I want to set the property value. So for that, use this method like property set, and the results of this property set, I want to store it in the clipboard page onto this one only. So in first method, we have created the page, and in the second method, we are using that page. So just click on this, just expand this. So what is the name of the property and what should be the value? That is what it is asking. So just click on dot. We'll be getting all the properties which are referenced to this page. So you can able to see now, if we just click on dot, we are not getting any of the properties from framework work class. First, go to the section, create any text input and click on dot there. We'll be getting all the properties referenced from framework work class. But now on just clicking on dot, we are not getting any of the properties or suggestions from framework work class. We are directly getting it from the data class. How PRPC will be knowing here is this particular method is being called onto this page, and this page has been referenced to this class, no? So all the properties will be coming from this class only. Understood? I'm setting like first name value as Chandra. Okay, I'm saving it now. Okay, so and remember that activity will not be having any user interface. So if you want to test whether it is working fine or not, if you want to see the results, everything should be done only on the clipboard or in the tracer. I'll explain the tracer. Okay. So now let me run this. So I want to create one new page onto the clipboard, and I want to set the first name value to Chandra. This is what my requirement is. For that, I have to run this activity rule. So just click on actions and click on run. Again, click on run. We'll be getting one acknowledgement. This is successful. Close this and just click on clipboard now. From this window only, just click on clipboard. We should be seeing one page like page one. We can able to see this now. So page one has been created, and this is reference to this class. This is because of pages and classes. So just click on that. We can able to see first name value automatically coming here. And now if I want to use this value in my PRPC processing into my section, you can able to use that page one dot first name. You can able to get it. So ultimate thing is we have to get the data onto the clipboard only. So how are we getting it? That is secondary. We can able to get it from the database, or we can able to directly hard code the values like this, or we can able to get it from integrations, or we can able to get it from the property references, meaning the customer entering in the first screen itself. So ultimately, if we get the data onto the clipboard, we can able to use it for the processing. So this first name value has been assigned with some value, we can able to use it for processing if it is there in the clipboard. Okay, so this is how we can able to do it. Now let me show you how to get the same value using tracer. So now let me run it. Before that, let me explain you what is tracer. So just click on the tracer. Beside clipboard, there will be something called tracer. If we just click on this, we will be getting one new window. So this is one of the development tool. Real users will not be given access to this. Only the developers will be given access, and we can able to trace everything in step-by-step event here. So once you launch the tracer, first thing what you have to do is you have to go to settings. Okay, so if we just click on settings, we can able to see all the necessary rules and its rule sets. So our intention here is we have to trace one activity rule. Okay, so what are all the rules you want to trace? You have to select it here. So even in the real time also, on clicking on submit button, what if you want to see the behavior, what you will be doing is you will be selecting all the rules. Why? Because you will not be knowing what are all the things they are doing. No, if you are new to the project, if you want to just check what are all the rules they are running in the background, what you have to do is you have to first put the tracer on, then after click the submit button there, or any other action what you want to do it there, then automatically events will be coming here. I'll tell you. So the first thing what you have to do is after launching the tracer, click on settings here, and we'll be having the events to be traced. So by default we'll be having activities and data transforms and when rules. These will be checked by default. And if you want to trace any other rule, you have to mark this. So if you want to trace one flow rule, you can able to check this checkbox. If you want to trace some integrations or the services, you check the corresponding checkboxes. Then this particular flow, this particular rules will be traced. If you are unchecking this, these rules will not be traced out. Okay, we'll be having only activities and data transforms here. If you want to uncheck this also, you can able to do this. So by default, if you're tracing without these settings, you will not get all the events traced. And next thing what you have to do is you have to check for the rule sets also. Okay, so the importance here is we are trying to trace some activities here, and that activities will be traced out only if we check that checkbox. If I deselect all this and if I'm trying to select only this first two rule sets, let us say, and what are all the activities we have in these rule sets, only those activities will be traced out. And if you want to trace any activity like send email notification, okay, suppose if you are creating one activity and in that activity you are calling another activity like send email notification, and if you are in a requirement to send one customized mail, you feel that you have done or implemented everything perfect, but output is not coming, there is some error, then what you have to do is we have to trace it. So, and before tracing it, we have to make sure that particular rule set is there or not, marked or not. If you're not sure, just click on select all, then all the rule sets will be enabled, and for sure send email notification rule set will be that rule should be among one of these rule sets, no, then that rules will be traced out. Okay, so here our requirement here is we have to trace one activity rule which is there in my framework rule set. I need not trace all these things here, just I'm tracing my rule sets which I have created. Okay, so after that you have to just click on okay. So by default it will be tracing only 5000 events, and if you want to change this also you can able to change this. I'll tell you what is event. Once you see this you will be understanding. So first thing we have to click on settings and you have to select necessary rules and rule sets, and next thing is we have to run the rule. So go to actions and click on run, and earlier we have just directly clicked on run, no, we can also do the same now. So if you did not open the tracer, you can able to click this. Tracer will be open from here also. I have already tracer open, so I'm directly clicking on run. So activity execution is successful. So if you want to see the details in the tracer, open the tracer window which was minimized earlier. And if you want to just check in the clipboard also, you can able to directly click on clipboard. Okay. So let me minimize this. Let me close this. This is not required. And you can able to compare it here. You can able to compare it here. So event should be traced in the tracer from the bottom. So this is event number 1. This has been recorded first. After this, step number 2 has been executed. Event number 2. Then after event number 3. So in the tracer, once the execution is completed, we have to come to the last. We have to check from the events from the bottom, starting from 1. Okay, let me check what it is doing here. We have to come from right to left. So here, so activity has been executed. So this is the activity. No, activity has been executed, and this activity name is this one. Test 1 is the name of my activity, and this is in my framework rule set, framework class. Okay, so this activity has been executed on 1. step page. So this is the step page now. So this has been executed on run record primary page. We'll discuss that about later. And once the step event number 1 is completed, what it is doing, it is executing this event number 2. That is step begin. Under this activity, step number 1 has been begun. We can able to see the step number here. Step begin, that is step number 1, and in the step number 1 they are trying to do page new. So this is what we are doing. So the method name is page new here, and the step page here is page 1. We can able to see it. Okay, and once this is completed, so step 1 has been completed. Sorry, come to the event number 3, that is step has been ended. Step number 1 has been ended and the status is good, meaning page 1 has been created successfully. First step has been executed successfully. And after this, it is coming to the step number 2. Again, step has been begun, that is step number 2, and in the step number 2 they are trying to do the property set, and this will be result will be stored on the page new. Sorry, page 1. After this step 2 has been begun, it will be completing it. So go to event number 5. Here we can able to see that step number 2 has been executed successfully. The status is showing as good here. And now if we want to check for the data what we have seen earlier in the clipboard, just click on the page 1 here. If we just click on the page 1, we can able to see the first name property here. So this is how we should be tracing it. Okay, understood both of you?
Yeah.
Tulani also?
Yes, sir.
And if you leave this tracer on and if you make any of the changes here, or if you are running any rule, or if you are making any of the things here, tracer will be executed in the background. So once the tracer is on, performance will be very poor. So that's why in the production environment, tracer, clipboard both will be disabled. Okay, so if you don't want to close the tracer, if you want to use these events for some other time, just put this pause, then tracer will be disabled temporarily. We can able to make the changes whatever we want here. Performance will not be affected. The same thing we can able to see the same in clipboard as well. So if you just click on page new, we'll be getting the same results now. The same thing we can able to check in the tracer. And one thing, if we just close the tracer and if you're trying to launch the tracer again, we'll be getting this issue. So cannot launch multiple tracer. This is the issue with our personal edition. We cannot able to open the tracer again. Okay, for that what you have to do is you have to just log off and log in. That's the only option. So instead we can able to just pause the tracer and minimize it. And if you want to trace it again, just click on play option. And we can able to clear the events also. If you are getting confused, or if you want to if you're done with the previous debugging, you can able to clear the events. So now you cannot able to open that. So for that what you have to do is you have to just log off and log in. So now if you want to work on activity, the same rule, whatever the rule you are working earlier, if you want to work on the same rule, what we have to do is we have to go to App Explorer, we have to remember the class name, and we have to expand the section, what's the technical category. We have to do everything like that. Instead, PRPC will be maintaining all the recent rules into this recent Explorer. So if we just click on this, we can able to see all the recent rules what we have created in this particular order. Okay, so test one is the activity that I have accessed the latest one, and this is the previous work object ID. Likewise, by default it will be holding 20 records here, and if you want to change that also, we can able to do that. Okay, so from here directly I can open this activity rule. So this is just like an cache table. PRPC will be maintaining one cache tables. And if you want to add one more step, we can able to do it. So once we get the page ready here, so in this process what we have done is we have just created two methods, and with this first method I will be getting page ready onto the clipboard. So once I get the page ready onto the clipboard, I can able to use it as a source for the drop down, no? So ultimately what we have to do is we have to get the source, we have to get the data onto the clipboard, and it might be from anyways. It might be from the it might be from activities, or it might be from the report definitions, or it might be from the data pages. Ultimately we have to get the data onto the clipboard, and from the clipboard only we have to access it. So you understood now how to create one page onto the clipboard. And now let me explain these first 5 instructions. As I was discussing, these all are called as methods, and if we click on down, we can able to see some instructions here. And if I want, these are used call, branch, and collect. These are used for calling an activity within another activity. So call, branch, queue. So these 3 are the instructions which are meant for calling one activity into another activity. So for that, let me create another activity. I want to explain this activity invoking in another activity. So I'm creating like test2. So difference between call, branch, queue. This is very important. In interviews they will be asking. So all these 3 methods are meant for calling one activity into another activity only. And what's the difference when we go for which method, for which instruction? That is important. Okay, so this is step number, activity 2. In this activity 2, let me create the same thing like page new, and I'm giving something like page 2. So I just want to show the difference, that's why I'm giving like this. So page 2 also I want to refer it from the same data class. So I can able to use this for my clipboard page. Now I'm just creating new step, and here I want to set the property to some other value. Property set. If you want to select the page directly from the in this field, just click on down arrow. Instead of you typing each and everything here, you directly click on down arrow, not by clicking on dot. Directly click the down arrow and select the property value. So did you understand what we are trying to do? So I have created one activity like step 1, using which I am trying to set the first name property as Chandra there. And now I'm trying to create one more activity, and using which I'm trying to set the same property value to some other thing. Okay, now I want to call this activity into another activity. This is my requirement. So for that, what we have to do is we have to use call method. Like just to start typing call and select the corresponding instruction, and now just click on space, not the down arrow, just click space and then click down arrow. We can able to see all the available activities in that particular class. So you understood now? Here I am trying to call this activity 2 into this activity 1, that is test 2 into this test 1. Okay, just save it. That's it. So call, branch, queue, these 3 are meant for using the same purpose. Now I want to run this activity. So let me put the tracer. So make sure everything is working fine. And now I'm just running this. Just run. This is successful. Go to the tracer. So I told you, we have to trace the events from the bottom, starting from event number 1. So just compare it here. So the first thing what it is doing, it is running the test number 1 activity, which is in the class group, framework class group. This is okay, and activity has been begun, and the step number 1 has been begin here, and the step number 1 we are doing page new, and step 1 has been executed successfully. This execution status we can able to see it here. this is successful. And once the step number 1 has been completed, it has to come to step number 2. So in step number, we can able to see it. So step begin, that is number 2, and here we are calling the method called call test2. Okay, so call test2, here we are doing it. And after this, what it is doing, it is directly executing step number activity number 2 here, that is test2. So soon after this step number 2, it is directly going to this test2 as per the method what we are defining it here. Open it, it will be directly going to step test2 here. Okay, so test2 execution has been started, and in that step 1 has been started, we can able to see. So test2 activity begin, then after step number 1 has been begin, and in that we are giving page new, and step number 1 execution is successful, that is new page has been created, page 2 has been created successfully, and after that step 2 of this test2 activity has been executed and property set. Okay, and page 2 execution is also successful. We can able to see this. After the step number 1, it is coming to step number 2. So step number 2, we are trying to set some property. So first name as PEGA. Okay, so step begin 2 has been started, and step 2 execution is also completed. So just click on this page 2, we can able to see the result. So as of now, what are all the properties created onto this step number 2, we can able to see it. So if you just click on page 2, we can able to see first name value as PEGA. This is what we are seeing here. Okay, after this step number 2 activity has been ended, that is test2 activity has been ended. So once the test2 activity has been ended, next what it is doing, it is executing test number 1, and that is on to step number 2. So it is coming back again where it is stopped, and it is starting it is resuming his operation from wherever it is stopped. Okay, so step number 2 execution has been resumed, and this is also successful. Step number 2 is successful, like calling and test2 activity is successful. Then after it is coming to test step number 3. So step 3 has been begun, property set is successful, we can able to see this, and click on page 1 now. So if you just click on page 1 now, as per this, it is again setting the property value like first name to Chandra, and it is assigning on to this page. Okay, so ultimately what is the first name value updated here? So whatever the value we have in the test number 1, it is coming. So although property name has been, first name has been initially made to PEGA, it has been overridden with the value here. Okay, so in this process what you have to understand is, if I'm using call method, call branch, I mean call instruction or method, if I'm using call method here, so step number 1 is successful, and step 2, in step 2 we are calling another activity, and it will be stopping all his operations, and it will be going to the activity, step number 2 activity, sorry test2 activity. As per this method, it is directly going to test2 activity, and it is performing all the steps within the test2 activity, and once this is completely done, it is coming back to test number 1, that is activity main calling, and wherever it got stopped, and from there it is resuming its activities. So in between, if it want to assign new values, it will be doing, and if it want to override the existing values also, it will be doing. So that is what it is doing here. So ultimately what we can able to understand is, call is a method which is waiting for the child activity to be complete, execution of this child activity to be completed successfully. So you understood now? Now let me show you the branch as well. So I'm just saving this. So the same process, test1 is the activity, and I want to call test2 into this test1 using branch. So let me trace this. So if I trace it now, it will be coming from event number 15. I don't want any of these events. So for that, you have to just clear it. That's it. Now I am trying to trace. Run it. Run this. So open the tracer. The same thing. So test1 has to be started now. So test1 is running first, and then after step 1, page new has been completed, and step 2 has been executed, and it is calling another test2 using branch method. And here we can able to see this second activity execution has been started, and in that we are seeing this step number 1 execution is good, step number 2 execution is good. And if you want to see the output as of now, here click on that. So as of that, first name property has been assigned to PEGA here, and then after once the activity test2 activity has been executed successfully, it is coming back to the step number 1. So in step number 1, step 2, wherever we stopped here, that is step 2, we can able to see this execution as good here, and we are not seeing anything like step 3. Okay, so step 3 has been ignored here. So ultimately first name property here is PEGA only. So whatever the first name property I'm trying to set using this activity 1, that is being ignored here. So you understood the difference, no? So if I want to use the call method, what it will be doing is parent activity will be waiting for the child activity to be completely executed. Then after it will be coming back to the parent activity and it will be executing all other remaining steps. Okay, so this is what we have observed in the call method. And now if we are trying to use the same using branch, if the if the child activity has been executed using parent activity and that too with the branch, then then also parent activity is completely waiting for the child activity to be executed. So it will be stopped its operations into the step number 2 only, and it will be completely executing all the steps what we have in this test 2, that is activity 2. If I have 20 steps also, it has to execute all the 20 steps. Once this activity execution has been completed, it has to come back to the parent activity, that is to the step number 2, and it is stopping its operation here. It is not, it is completely ignoring all the steps what it is having below that. So understood the difference now? And let me show you the third one, that is like queue. So I'm saving this. So these three methods are used for calling an activities only. So let me clear this. Let me run it now. So run this. So now open. So activity 1 execution is good, step 1, and the step 2 of this activity 1, we are calling this activity 2 using this queue method. And after this event we are seeing test 1 only here, and in the test 1, sorry, we are seeing the step 2 of this test 1 only, and here we are seeing this queue method, and after this we are seeing the third step of this test 1 only. So ultimately we are seeing only the parent activity rules executed here. So are we seeing any of the events traced for this test 2, that is activity 2? It is not showing here. Tracer will not be catching all the events of this activity 2 if we are using queue method, but in the background it will be executing. This is important. So if we are using queue method, both the activities will be executed parallelly. Parent will not wait for the child activity and child will not wait for the parent. So step 1 has been completed, and in the step 2, this child activity will be executed and this parent activity parallel, this third step also will be executed parallelly. So any activity will not wait for anything. Parent and child execution will be parallelly done, and we cannot able to trace it. So ultimately if we just click on page 1, we are seeing this value only. Okay, so parent will not wait for the child. So the important point what you have to understand here is call, branch and queue, these three are used for calling one activity into another activity, and using this call and branch, parent activity will be waiting for the child activity, and using queue, parent and child both will not be stopped. Those will be executed parallelly. And if you want to check for the difference of call and branch, call method will be waiting for the child activity, and once the child activity execution is completely done, it will be coming back to the parent and it will be executing the remaining steps. But in the branch method, after the child activity execution is completed, it will be coming back to the parent and it will be ignoring all other steps of this parent activity. Okay, so that's why call and branch methods, we call this as an synchronous processing. Synchronous processing meaning one execution will be done after the another one, so those both will be in the sync. So first one has to be executed, then after two will be executed, not or one or two. First those execution will be done one after the another. So that's why call and branch activity execution is called as a synchronous execution. The behavior is called as synchronous behavior. And the queue method, that is asynchronous. Asynchronous meaning there will not be any sync for that. Those both will be executed parallelly. Okay, so you understood the difference now? This will be very important interview question. They will be asking you for sure. They'll be asking the difference between call, branch, and queue, and they will be asking about the behavior as well, like synchronous or asynchronous. So you understood, no, both of you? And you understood how to trace it, no?
Yeah.
Tulani, you also know?
Yes, sir.
So I think you already have, you will be having bit knowledge on this, no?
Yes. Little bit.
Okay.
When
Okay,
I was testing, I used that.
okay, no problem. Okay, any other doubts?
Sandra, do we have another class to talk about all the methods in this activity?
Yeah, we'll discuss most of the methods, not all. What are all the methods which will be mostly used for
Okay.
business processing? We'll discuss everything. Like RDB methods we will be using, OBJ methods we will be using,
Yeah.
activity and everything. I mean, most of the things. So mostly they will be asking you questions on call, branch, queue, and the OBJ methods and page new or the property sets. I mean, the property related methods, page related methods, and how to call these decision rules in activities, and how to call validate rules into activities, and how to call data transform into activities, and how to use integrations using activities, and how to use external database like RDB methods. This all thing we'll discuss.
Okay.
Yeah. So clear now? I'm closing the session.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Chandra.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you both of you.